Welcome back to another powerful episode of the Summer of Her series of Say It Forward with Lou, where purpose meets preparation, pivots meet perseverance, and where we honor women who are walking in their calling one intentional step at a time. Today's guest is the embodiment of grace under pressure, a champion for young people, a mother of athletes, an educator, a poet, speaker, and soon to be author who understands that transformation begins with words, mindsets, and heart work. I'm excited to welcome Tiffany Miller Bevins to the Say It Forward with Lou mic. Tiffany is a wife, a mother of 2 college athlete sons, and a passionate educator with the BS and MS in education. She is a certified social, emotional learning, and flourishing coach, and currently serves as an itinerant crisis intervention resource teacher with Prince George's County Public Schools. And listen, she's not just teaching, she's transforming. From behavioral strategy, support, to peer mediation and restorative practice, Tiffany is doing the inner and outer work of emotional healing in our schools and beyond. She's the founder of S.A.L.T.Y, Self-Affirming Love Transforms You, a mindset movement that reminds us that we are enough no matter what's happening to or around us. Her debut guided work journal, Nurturing Champions, How Sports and the Mind Are All Intertwined, is a beautiful tribute to parenting athletes while nurturing their social, emotional growth 1 quarter at a time. So get comfortable, grab your cup of cozy, and pull out your journal as we prepare your heart and your mind, because this episode is all about purposeful pivoting, healing, and walking boldly into what's next, 1 quarter at a time. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Say It Forward with Lou. I'm your host, Linda, aka Lou, and we are a community of healing, growth, creativity, and positivity. So let's dive in and sift through today's topic and chat. So as I said in our introduction, our guest today is an educator, an author, a coach, a mama of champions, and a spoken word artist whose words hit different because they're lived. Tiffany Miller Bevins is the founder of S.A.L.T.Y, author of the soon-to-be-released book, Nurturing Champions, How Sports and the Mind Are All Intertwined. And today, she's here to bless us with her story, her wisdom, and a live spoken word piece that I cannot wait for you to hear. So Tiffany, girl, I'm excited that you are here. Let's sift through today's topic and chat, and welcome to the Say It Forward community.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. I am so honored.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you. We go back, I don't even know how many years anymore. It's been when we were just young and starting out, right? But
Yes.
I am so excited to have you. So before we go into the full on, we like to kick things off here by asking our guests what's in their cup of cozy. And so just to kind of give you a background, now around here, the cup of cozy is both literal and figurative, right? And so because what's in our cup matters, right? And whether it's coffee or tea or water or a word of encouragement, your cup represents what's nourishing you, grounding you, and filling you up in this season, right? And let's be real, we have to be real about that. We can't pour from into others if we're running on empty. So the goal is to always stay full so that people around us can live in our overflow. So Tiffany, what's in your cup of cozy today? And what's keeping you fueled, inspired, or feeling like you're your fullest self?
All right, so it's a lot of things in my cup of cozy.
All right.
One thing that's always in my cup of cozy is my devotion in the AM. right? Spending time with God. I have to spend time with God early in the AM, whether it's 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. Something else that's in my cup is allowing me to do my newfound Pilates. Although I'm not going to the gym to do it, I do it at home, and I can definitely see the transformation in my body.
Nice.
So, and then my other cup of cozy is I've stopped drinking coffee as much, and now I've shifted to tea and with turmeric and ginger every single day. And so I have so many different things in my cup, and I believe when I start my devotions in the morning, right, and then go into my exercise, get my mind completely right, and then shifting different kind of energy and making sure that what goes into my body, whether it's my words, my thoughts, the food that I eat, and the things that I drink are a healthy part of me to continue to transform.
That's so awesome. That is true. I'm loving the Pilates because it's harder than what you think, because you don't think because you have such dynamic movement that it's not difficult, but Pilates will get you right. And I'm still a 1 cup of coffee in the morning girl. And so, but today I have tea in my cup of cozy. And so this is my little teacup that my best friend got for me. And I love this because the saucer is a lily pad, and she gave it to me to symbolize my leap into this new season of my life. So I love my teacup. So it's filled with tea this morning. So we're going to go into our first segment, purpose and practice and power of the heart work. So my question to you, Tiffany, is I always like to start by asking, when did you first recognize that your purpose was tied to the emotional growth and healing of others? And then the second part is, what led you into this unique blend of education, coaching, and emotional support?
So I'm so glad when you asked me that, I had to really think about it, right? I have to go all the way back to when I was a young girl in nursery. I used to help with the nursery school at church, right? And my mom wanted me to be an engineer. She wanted me to be something big. And the love of children, my passion was way back when I was 12, 13 years old. And then that's when I realized, you know what? This is my calling and this is my gift. And, when you move forward and you really trust in God, you say, what is my gift and how can I use it? And, you put yourself in all these different parameters, but my gift is definitely pouring into children. So I shifted from pouring into elementary school children, where we met at an elementary school for 7 years.
Oh my gosh.
Shifted to the high school realm and realized that is definitely my purpose. And then with the athletic pieces all tied in together, allowing me to pour into athletes, the community, and parents. And we'll kind of get into that a little later.
Yes, yes, yes. And I was going to ask you, but you sort of already answered it, because I was going to ask you, when did you realize your purpose was connected to the emotional growth and healing of students and athletes? So, yeah.
So I can elaborate on that though.
Okay.
It's so funny because I have children, right? I have 2 sons and I've coached both of them. And I am definitely that hardcore, aggressive, strong-willed, structured, determined mom. And I literally did that with my own children. But I realized a couple years ago that the way I was presenting myself to them may not have been the best way to present myself to them.
I understand
And
that.
the social emotional learning piece kind of dove in once I started being a peer mediator coordinator and did some training and realized, Tiffany, you got a lot to learn and a long way to go.
Yeah.
But I knew that going there was going to allow me to help others. So
Right, right.
when I became a peer mediator coordinator before the crisis intervention is when I really found the purpose of the social emotional.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. So you, as we said in your introduction, you wear many hats, right? You are an educator, crisis intervention specialist, wife, mom, poet, speaker, and still you're preparing to launch your first book / journal, right?
Yeah.
And so what pivots in your life shaped this journey, and what kept you going when it felt like it was too much?
So it's so funny because 2 years ago, I decided to write this book. I was at my grand goddaughter's basketball game. 10 years old, first time playing basketball, and everybody screaming and yelling. And this would be me, right? Be aggressive, run the floor, rebound, box out. This was me. But I literally stopped and listen. And I was so mind boggled by all of the things that people are screaming and yelling at these 10-year-old girls who really never played basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment is when I said, oh my gosh. And I started writing, but then it was a roadblock. I wrote the first 2 chapters, and it's 5 chapters, right? Each quarter, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and the 5th quarter is overtime.
Love it.
I wrote the first 2 chapters, and literally I ran into a brick wall, and I didn't know how to get out of this brick wall. Just January of this year, my homegirl and I, we started doing the Daniel fast.
Okay. Yes.
And getting up at 4:30 in the morning. And I really believe that was my shift, because I was able now to stop everything that I was doing, cut out all the noise around me.
Yes.
So that is the moment when I was able to finish January of 2025, finish the book through my fasting, through my journey, through my obedience, through my discipline, through my quiet. So I was able to take a 2-year hiatus, so to speak. And I tried. I was trying, and it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. And it's, I love that you said it was through fasting. One of the best spiritual disciplines is fasting and prayer. And so much clarity comes when you fast and you deprive yourself of certain things to allow yourself to receive truly and be nourished and hydrated by the word of God. You can hear him so much clearer. So that's absolutely amazing. So your journey has been a beautiful mix of education, emotional intelligence, and sports, right? So how did you find the courage to pivot and grow through all of your certifications and roles? Because you hold a lot of roles and certifications.
It's so funny because I never realized until somebody asked me for my bio, and I'm like, oh. Like, I don't pay attention to it, right?
Yes.
And it was so many times I've been thrown into things, right? I thought I was just going to be a teacher and a coach. Like, that was my 21-year-old self. I'm going to be a teacher and I'm going to be a coach. And I'm a special educator. So that's even better. Like, I get to pour into special education students. And oh my, how God has made this shift in my life. And I was like, what? So I was literally thrown into the athletic director position. Never thought to be an athletic director, never had the desire to be an AD. And a shift happened where the athletic director literally left. And I applied and I told the principal, I don't really want it, but I'm just going to go ahead and apply.
Yeah.
And in October of 2005, the AD left, and I literally was thrown in to the position. At this time, my oldest was 2. My youngest was in my belly because I was pregnant. I was getting my master's degree. Special education teacher and the head girls basketball coach. Literally, like, what is happening right now?
Right.
Yeah. So many things that I look back and say, it's definitely not my plan. Right. It's definitely God's plan. And now I really speak to, if it is for me, it's going to be for me. And I also speak to, it's so many shifts and you have to be ready to adapt because God knows best. So I'm just really trying my hardest to follow the journey that he has guided me to go on.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us more about your consulting brand, S.A.L.T.Y, which I absolutely love. And I told you about, like, when you told me what your name was, I was like, gosh, this is good. And what inspired it, and how do you use affirmations to help people transform from within?
Okay. So let me just tell you about the affirmations.
Yes.
Okay, I want to tell you about the affirmations because it kind of shifted to S.A.L.T.Y. So a couple years ago, being a peer mediator coordinator, I had a positivity jar in my office. And I started writing affirmations and putting them in there and allowing the students to come pick the affirmation. And then I got my mom on board, like, Mom, you have to start writing some, because I asked the kids, do you want me to handwrite them or can I order something off a line? And they were like, no, you have to handwrite them. I'm like, oh, no. And I'm talking about so many kids started pouring in, like, is this the classroom? This the office I get the affirmations? And I'm like, uh-huh. So I'm writing affirmations. I'm trying not to repeat them. And I'm just like, and I really believed, I prayed over the box and I really believed that the affirmation for that student was supposed to be for them. Right. Yeah. So a couple years later, meaning like last year, I'm like, Lord, I feel like this SEL thing is really about to take off. I just got my certification from Notre Dame of Maryland, social emotional learning and flourishing. And I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do with it now?
Right.
And that's when I prayed and said, God, I want a name. I need a name. I need to get this out here. I want to really, my whole focus was really to dive into athletes per se. Because it's a struggle, right? You're on top of the world in everybody else's mind, but it's so many things that are entering your thought process that may hurt you. So God revealed salt. And I'm like, salt? Like, I don't, what? Like, what is salt? It was like, okay, the salt of the earth. Okay, guys. So how can I make salt into my name? Like, what am I going to do? And I feel like God revealed, like, you're pouring into so many people, but you sometimes forget to pour into yourself. But I tell everybody every day, affirmations is what? Pouring into yourself. Yes. So how can I tell others to pour into themselves when I'm not even pouring into myself? And then hence S.A.L.T.Y, self-affirming love transforms you. And once you're transformed, then you can help others be transformed. And it's coming out of Mark 9:50, where it says salt is good for seasoning, but if it is lost, if it loses its flavor, how do you make it salty again? So at that moment, you must have the qualities of salt among yourself in order to be flavorful, pour into others with peace and love and joy. So that's where
I
it came
love
from.
it. That's so awesome. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to pivot into talking about parenting with purpose. And that segues into your book, your journal. And your journal title says it all, Nurturing Champions. And I'm adding one quarter at a time, but your title is about nurturing champions. And so as a mother of athletes, 2 athlete sons, what have sports taught you about emotional resilience, and how do you support both performance and emotional health?
So it's so funny because if you think about the word salt and salty, salt is a purifier. It is a cleanser. It is necessary, right? It makes sure you're resistant, because if you don't have enough sodium within your body when you're an athlete, you'll start cramping, your body will start deteriorating, and you get tired, fatigued, and people equivalent salt as a negative, right? But in the Bible, God says salt of the earth. So this is the purification of salt. So with my sons, I wanted to make sure that they knew that first and foremost, their mom and dad absolutely love everything about them. Good, bad, ugly, and all in between, right? And so pouring into my kids every single day, telling them they are fearfully and wonderfully made, making them look in the mirror and saying you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And then I had to add, you are more than a conqueror. And people just say that, but what we started to do in our family is showing them what we meant by that. So when something happened where it wasn't so great an injury, fatigue, not getting time, and you still are making your way, you're more than a conqueror. Right? All of these things that are hitting you and just being so aggressive towards you, that all these weapons that are forming, they're not going to prosper. And we had to add the second part of that verse, because people don't put the second part of the verse. Everything that is spoken over you as well is not going to prosper. Anything that's negative is not going to come to fruition. So those are the ways that we pour it into our kids every day. We pray. We have a group chat of prayer, togetherness. You are your brother's keeper. I don't care what, right? So these are the things that we have allowed in our home. And I just so happen to be at the same school that my children went to high school. So they had the luxury of riding in the car with me every morning. But during this time, we will read the daily devotional together. We will talk about it together. So trying to pour into them way before the rest of the world can start pouring into them.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to say, Tiffany and her husband have raised 2 of the best young men. Like, to really see how they have grown into, like, they're like, I'm like, they are really good young men. And not just because, that I know you, but I'm like, these are good young men, like genuinely just good spirits, good personalities, just kind and smart, athletic, just all around, just good young men. Absolutely. So congratulations.
And I thank you for that because I definitely want to share this. It
Yes.
wasn't easy.
Yes.
And when they were younger, I wasn't sure.
Right.
And being an educator and students who
Mm-hmm.
are very active, very challenging, concerning, all of these things. And I'm looking like, how can I be this strong, powerful
Right.
educator?
Right.
And then I have these kids that I'm questioning, like, what is happening? But you know what? We stayed the course.
Yes.
We stayed grounded. We
Yes.
stayed faithful.
Yes.
So I want to
Amen.
let everybody know it's not that, it was like do do do. Like, no, it
Right.
wasn't. It wasn't all flowers and butterflies.
I understand. I truly, truly understand. So, what was the spark behind the upcoming journal, Nurturing Champions? And what can parents expect when they open the pages?
I thank you so much for that question. And as I alluded to, going to this particular game, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm,
then after that, really sitting back, watching and listening and looking at the athlete, listening to the parents, figuring out what the coaches are doing, the fans. Now I'm reading all of the 4 or 5 star, the right, all of these things, all of these
mhm.
platforms that kids now have to try to hold on their shoulders. And my problem was sometimes the parents, myself included, was the driving force of deteriorating our child's thought process and their self growth, because we really want the best for them, but we're doing it a different way. I believe not always in the right manner, right? So as I listened and watched, and then I would talk to the student athlete, whether they
Mhm.
were 6, 7, all the way up to 19 and
Right,
20.
right.
And that's when I said, oh my gosh, I have to write this. So within the book, is 5 quarters. Like I shared, the first quarter is 3 to 7 years old, 8
Mhm,
to 11 is the second quarter, 12 to 14 is the third quarter, 15 to 18 is the fourth quarter, and the overtime is 18 plus, right? It's like, now what? So basically, in my book, I'm asking you questions, asking you for your reflections as well, giving some mental developmental, physical developmental things of why the kid acts the way they do. And one thing I love about the book, in each quarter I underline my favorite lines, right?
yes,
And so, because it's like we have all of these things and all of these battles, but we're our child support system, right? We have social media, we have the peers, we have school, we have the coaches, we have all of these things. And it's like they're holding this umbrella up for protection. But
yes,
guess what? Sometimes the parents are on top of there screaming and yelling and doing all these things when we should be underneath the umbrella, holding it up and helping our child and allowing them to know, yes, I am here to help protect you from all the noise and
yes.
all the things, because when it gets lonely at the top, but I'm going to be here to stand the ground to help you walk through this loneliness.
Absolutely. 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 So, how has being a mom of two college athletes influenced your perspective on social emotional learning and mindset? Because now they're young men and college is a whole different ballgame.
It's a whole different ballgame, but I really believe instilling it when they
Mm-hmm.
were younger was definitely beneficial,
Yes.
right? When you're trying to do it now, as you're older, it's a little like, where's your learned lesson? These are
Right.
learned behaviors now,
Mm-hmm.
So I really believe that has helped me with the reason why they are where they are today. Because guess what? They call home and
Mm-hmm.
ask their parents instead of going to social media, going to alcohol, going to drugs, going to sex and going to text and going to whatever. They call home
Yes.
and ask us to help them navigate through the difficult times,
Mm-hmm.
which,
Mm-hmm.
that's difficult. You're talking about
Yes.
young men, college, and all the influences they could do. And I'm thinking of myself in college. I didn't call home to say, Mom, what, da, da,
Mm-hmm.
da. I'm going to my homegirls or, my homeboys.
Right. Right.
No, we're like, and that didn't always work out so well. So being
Mm-hmm.
honest with that.
Yes. Yeah.
and allowing them to have the vulnerability to come to us and to be okay with whatever it is, and then know that we're going to help guide them in the right direction. And so I made them, like I said, I made them look in the mirror, and they have affirmations over their rooms. In college, the college kids are like, "Oh, my mom didn't put this on my wall."
Right.
And Ty's like, "My mom does too much." And they're like, "No, this is what we need."
Yes. That's so awesome. I love it. So last question in this segment, and it's going to be, what does it mean to you to create trauma sensitive spaces in schools? And how can we as a community support our youth better?
But that's such a dynamic question. I really believe that kids need a safe place, right? We always think that the safe place is at home. And a lot of times it is, but they're kind of scared of walking out the doors, but they know the safe space is also in school. So they get excited that they have a safety net there as well, where they're spending 1/3 of their time at school, 1/3 at home, and then the other 1/3 is in this world, right? So it's like trying to have that opportunity for educators to really pour in to build relationships, right? As a mentor teacher to new teachers, one thing I share with them: listen, build the relationship, get to know your child, your student, get to see the extracurricular activities that they do, their interests. So you can have a conversation like, "Hey, how was soccer, over the weekend? How did the something like did the cooking, did your bake off happen, and how did it go?" You want to make sure that building relationship is the most important thing. And once you build that relationship, then students tend to want to lean on you a little bit more. So I would love to see more affirmation jars or positivity jars or whatever in schools, and allow kids to pick through them. They have them in the counselor office, but what about around the rest of the school?
Absolutely.
Right.
That's
So
true.
I would love to see more of that. And as a peer mediator coordinator, I think it was one of the most dynamic things that I've ever done, because I was allowed to have peers be the forefront, and allow them to establish how to resolve conflicts through verbal conversations.
Yes.
Then hopefully they take it out into the real world. So what I've done also now with that is I do the SEL for some athletes. So I've been hired to go out and pour into athletes during their practice time, right? And learning to breathing methods, why affirming is really important, why emotional intelligence is bold and fierce and confidence, so they can understand how. And then I was able to now get the parents on board. And this was such a rewarding time, because I had a guy with tears in his eyes came to me and said, "I just want to be honest. I didn't really want to be at the session, but because I had to be," he said, "but that was such a force that allowed him and his son to build a different kind of bond." And because he's like, "I'm just going to try it. I don't want to use it." And he said it worked. He said, and then I listened to the girls, as this is volleyball. I listened to the girls as they were talking. They were talking the language you were talking with their teammates. He said, "Wow." So that just keeps on driving me to want to do more and more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so, oh gosh, that's awesome. And I do agree. I think I would love to see the affirmation jars throughout schools. So absolutely. So we're going to move into a different hat that you wear, because you are a poet. And that's one of my favorite hats that you wear, by the way, and a wordsmith, right? And I love just how your brand S.A.L.T.Y is rooted in power and self-affirmation, and how you help people reframe their pain, not by ignoring it, but by speaking over it, right? And I know you enough to know that you love to dance, right? And to move. And so I imagine when you write that you're not just putting words on a page, but that you are releasing healing into the atmosphere. And so I'm going to ask if you could share how you use poetry and mindset to shift narratives from stuck to unstuck and from pain to purpose.
I love the word pivot. We talked about this. And I definitely appreciate you, because pivot is in sports, and I'm a basketball player. And so the pivot move is so dynamic in basketball, because if you're thinking about basketball and when the person is going downhill and then the defense comes to defend our basket, a lot of times the player has to pivot and shift, turn, right?
Yes.
Put their body against the defender or look to pass the ball to someone close to them to share it, right? So then they can shift out of their pivot and then they can relocate, right? If you don't pivot in basketball and you travel, it's a violation. It's the other person's ball. So you want to make a hard pivot sometimes, and you have to still keep one foot on the ground though.
Come on.
Right? You have to keep that one foot on the ground. That pivot and the shift in the speaking is, I pivoted. A lot of my poems were very, I feel like, generic. And I've allowed the vulnerability of what I didn't really know. I called up my homegirl, Rebecca Dupas. I want to shout her out. She's a phenomenal poet, Dr. Rebecca Dupas, right?
Yes.
And we sit down and we pour into each other, and I can share with her, and she gives me life and structure. And she has shown me how to be a more powerful, more productive poet to grab the attention of others. And I'm still a work in progress. I'm still a work in progress, but I love where I'm going.
Yes.
And I love to see where I was. Like, that's exciting to me because I can see the growth. So
yes, absolutely. So what practices keep you grounded and filled outside of work and outside of writing?
you know, I really changed my thought process. And when I read one of the poems, you're going to hear one of my favorite proverbs. Be careful what you think, because your thoughts can change your life, right?
Yes.
Because you really can change your thinking. And so when I think something, if it's a negative thought, I immediately back it up with a positive thought and then positive words behind it.
Yes.
So I'm going to speak the positivity inside and outside. And this is what I try to reach for and try to make sure that I'm doing all the time. But I find myself, when some people don't like, if you say something negative, I'm like, and they were like, oh, here comes positive such and such. But I also found, with that being said, that people were like, oh, Tiffany's right here. Let me say something positive. So that means the seeds are not only being planted, but hopefully the soil and the sunshine and the rain is going to help allow them to grow. So I'm okay with you saying, oh gosh, Tiffany's going to say something. Let me use my Tiffany positivity. So that's exciting.
And that's why your words hit so deeply, Tiffany, because they're literally not just poems. They're prayers, the declarations, reset buttons for the soul. And so, family, say it forward with Lou family. I want you to pause and give this next moment the space it deserves, because Tiffany wrote a spoken word piece that captures the heart of what we've been talking about here in the Say It Forward with Lou community. And it's called Pivot for Purpose. And this piece is for the woman who's been questioning her worth in the middle of her becoming. It's for the overcomer who's still healing. It's for the high achiever who's learning to rest and redefine. And it's for the version of you that's still rising. So wherever you are listening or watching, pause, take a breath, and let her words wash over you and water something in you. So I present Tiffany Miller Bevins live with Pivot for Purpose. Take it away.
Thank you so much. I do want to contribute this poem. The Harvest Society, Dr. Rebecca Dupas, does this challenge every October and every April. And this was one of the poems, I Ain't the Same No More. That was our prompt. Bear with me, please, because I wrote it and revisited it, and I revisited it back just the other day. I ain't the same person I used to be. Besides the extra weight, I've changed. Hearing people say you ain't the same, I agree. In my teens, I did some dumb things, disobeyed my parents, acting grown, not knowing what grown really was. When my mom told me things, I would roll my eyes and suck my teeth. Not in front of her. I ain't that crazy. In my 20s, thought I knew some things, but I didn't. Well, I knew I was in love. Really in love with the man I now call my husband, the father of both my children. Funny story, I only share to those close to me. It's still kind of mind-boggling. My college days were fun, like really fun. played basketball, traveled and things, met good people along the way, found friends, turned into family. But I still was a bit green. I can admit it now. I thought I knew everything, and those with wisdom didn't understand anything. I know, yeah, they were kind of old. But then life took a turn. I moved away, called Maryland my home. It was really tough being on my own, but I'm grown, right? Still needed daddy and mommy to sign their names, cars, apartments, insurance. Got my first cell phone, and yes, you guessed it, it was in my daddy's name. Got married, and my parents paid for everything, and I mean princess bride wedding, glitz, glamour, ballroom, and dancing. By 31, I had 2 sons, happy and smiling, sometimes crying, not much, needed much guidance, but didn't want any at the time, thought I was good in season. Now I'm laughing, looking like chicken with no salt, pepper, nor grandma's secret ingredients. Still needed some help in the kitchen, called mom for her recipes, how to make good old fashioned collard greens, yams, and mac and cheese. I had a little bit of a clue, but I still needed instruction. Career was advancing, turned teaching into administration, certified athletic director. Heck, I had coaches, parents, athletes, and the community reaching out to me. They had a sister over an entire sports program, y'all, while coaching, teaching, parenting, wifing, and let's not forget my master's degree. It was dope, y'all. But I still had to learn an abundance of things, and at the time I didn't think so. I was still quick-wit, not knowing how to regulate my thoughts quickly, spoke exactly what came to mind, not believing I could really change my thinking. And as Proverbs 4:23 says, be careful what you think, because your thoughts could run your life. And the way my thoughts were running rampant in my head, man, my life could have been devastating, a disaster, had so much to learn, but you couldn't tell me nothing, and I mean anything. And then 40 came along. Career shifted over programs, organizations, instructors of trainings, facilitating, getting more certifications, finally obtaining my LLC. I am now salty. The pivotal moment, growth growing, just like my weight, little by little, I started observing more and speaking less, giving grace where I used to give agitation, put myself in places to retain information, shifted my thinking, listening to motivational speaking, mindset on advancing, giving time and instruction, realizing the thing I once thought was out of reach, I am now on my tiptoes touching them, building relationships and family wealth just by me listening and reminiscing to those who had wisdom, put myself in places I'm trying to go to. Say It Forward with Lou shares sudden, fast forward movement is upon us. We need purposeful pivots, y'all, with ambition, pushing in the right direction. Now at 50, finally, acknowledging I've seen some things and didn't know some things, and understanding now why daddy and mommy said, no, not right now. Do this before doing that. Prayed before everything. And maybe you won't have to struggle as much. But y'all, I ain't the same person I used to be. I know what you thinking, you're different. But why not? Since I was born to stand out.
Come on, come on, come on, Tiffany. Y'all, that's a moment for me. And it's like your words truly minister to me. Your poetry is a form of ministry, and you are ministering to your audience. And if you're listening right now, I really want you to pause and receive what was just spoken over you, because what she poured out aligns with deeply the heartbeat of Say It Forward with Lou and the framework that I utilize in my coaching. And I have what I call the 5P pillars of my 5P framework. And it's purpose, pivot, perspective, perseverance, and preparation. And so listening to that piece, one, it's about purpose, right? Even how detours, God's plan is never derailed, right? Even in detours, right? It's about pivot, because those holy shifts that stretch us and shape us into more than what we imagine. It's about perspective, the lens we choose when life doesn't go as we planned, right? And how we still decide to show up as ourselves anyway. It's a carried perseverance, not just pushing through, but rising with intention. And most of all, it pointed us towards preparation, because even when it feels like you're waiting, you're being made ready. And so, Tiffany, thank you for reminding us that pivoting isn't punishment, it's positioning, right? And sometimes the most powerful transformation happens when we dare to speak over ourselves in truth. So let me ask you, Tiffany, what inspired this piece that we just heard?
When the challenge was not the same as I'm not the same as I used to be. I literally thought about all the changes that I have made and shifted. And I was so excited when I started kind of brainstorming, drafting this. And I went to 20, well, you know, the quick childhood age, and then all of the stages of your life, because the 20s is not the new 20s, and 40s is not the new 30s, and 50s is not like, I want to stand in my purpose, right? I'm glad I'm not 40 and 30 and 20, but I was excited when I was there, right? But if you're the same person when you're 20 at 50 or at 30 or at 40, there's differences. So just like the foundation of the book is development in stages, you grow. And sometimes you have to wait. Sometimes, you know, you don't grow anymore for a little while. And then you see this growth, you know, when children do a growth spurt, like, what happened? Well, my growth spurt happened again, right? Which I'm so grateful that I have had another growth spurt and pouring into myself. But before I did that, I had to fall in line with Jesus and my spiritual walk. So I had another growth spurt there. So I'm just excited about that.
Yes. So what does pivoting for purpose mean to you now in this season right now at 50 versus what it would have meant to you in the past?
I can tell you this. I know that I know that I know that I know that it's going to be another pivot in my life.
Yes.
Why? Because all of these other pivots have happened, and it's all been for the progression of my life. So I'm excited, a little fearful and scared, but I'm excited about this new pivot that's about to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know that it's going to happen because, as my poem shared, all of these other pivots have happened and they all have been progressing towards greatness. So the next pivot is about to happen and it's about to be mind blowing. I've already spoke it. I can't wait. And I'm excited.
Come on. I am so excited. I feel it too. I feel it. And as I've discussed before, you know, my bishop talks about, we're in the spring feasts, and during this time of year, you'll experience sudden fast forward movement where it's just like, you may feel like nothing is happening. Then all of a sudden it's like, bam, it's here. And you feel a little unsettled, but that's because greatness, your breakthrough is about to happen. And so I receive it and I'm moving in it, and I'm trusting it. So I'm right there with you. So Tiffany, what would you say to the woman currently in her pivot season?
Hold steady, know it's coming. And as we already know, we live life forward, but we look at it backwards, right? And recognize where you were and understand that where you are now is a different place, and acknowledge that positive movement, no matter how small the movement is. I definitely want to say this. Somebody told me the other day, listen to a motivational speaker. When you say yes to something, you say no to something else. So when you say yes to yourself, when you say yes to eating healthier, you say no to maybe something that's unhealthy. When you say yes to resting, you say no to your body being fatigued. But when you say yes to something negative, you're saying no to something positive. Right. So know that in your yes season, you have to say no to something and to understand and realize what you did in the past. As long as you're putting one foot forward, you are progressing.
Absolutely. Gosh. Whew. So to my listeners, if everything that was just said spoke to you, I want you to write it down, because I don't want this revelation to pass without reflection. And this is your sign to pivot with purpose, with perspective, and with power. So before we close, Tiffany, we're going to switch it up a little bit and do a little something fun, a little lightning round of questioning. I'm going to call it the final quarter, right? So just some fun, quick questions to help us and the Say It Forward with Lou community get to know who you are outside of the work and the wisdom that you just dropped on us. So just something fun and light.
Thank you.
You ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to ask, you just answer quick, First thing that comes to
Okay.
sneakers or heels?
Sneakers.
As if, right? I didn't know. Go to a guilty pleasure snack at a game.
Popcorn.
Favorite sport to watch versus coach?
Football. Eagles. Go Eagles. Sorry.
Eagles. Hype song that always gets you in your zone.
Woo, it's a whole lot of them. Any reggae song or any
Okay.
Busta Rhymes song.
Okay. All right. Yes. Yes. Favorite affirmation you say to yourself often?
You are absolutely amazing.
And one thing you tell your younger self before the game of life started.
One thing I tell my younger self, put your seatbelt on, buckle up, because it's going to be a heck of a ride and you are going to be excited, enjoying the journey, the ups, the downs, the dips, the sideways, the loops, and the sudden stops. But you're going to know you're going to make it and you're going to win.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. And at the end of every episode, I invite our guests to say a say it forward moment. So it's a time to share one truth, one lesson, or encouragement to another woman that needs to hear it right now. So I'll let you give us your say it forward moment before we close out.
Okay, one truth is I'm scared. And it's okay. One lesson I have what it takes, but I didn't know it at the time. But now I know I have what it takes. But I have to remember to always keep God first. And that is going to be the deciding factor of everything.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, Tiffany, thank you for being with us today. I'm going to quickly close us out in prayer and just say, Father God, thank you for the voice and vision of Tiffany Miller Bevins. Thank you for her courage to speak truth, to pour wisdom into every word, and to remind us that healing and purpose often come through the pivot. Thank you for her calling as a coach, a mother, a poet, and a woman of deep conviction. Lord, continue to anoint her voice. Let every word she speaks carry healing, power, and breakthrough. Protect her mind, her heart, and her mission. And may the seed she plants through her story and her spoken word produce lasting fruit in the lives of those who hear it. And for the listener in transition, the one feeling stuck, scared, or unseen, I pray today's episode reminded her that she doesn't have to have it all figured out. She just has to say yes, because you're not asking for perfection, God. You are asking for obedience, and you can do a lot with that. So may this be a season of courage, of clarity and calling, and a season of continuing to say it forward. In Jesus' mighty, matchless, and magnificent name, amen.
In Jesus' name,
Tiffany, Tiffany,
amen.
Tiffany. Tiffany Miller Bevins, she reminds us that healing and discipline can coexist, that you can raise champions without losing emotional connection, that you can teach boundaries and still lead with love, and that our words spoken over ourselves and others can transform how you show up in the world. So thank you, Tiffany, for your heart, for your voice, for your wisdom, for your presence, for being one of my friends, for being who you are, and showing us how to take life one quarter at a time. So
Thank you. Thank
you
you.
are so welcome. You are so welcome. You are so welcome. You are so welcome. So for my listeners, before we close, I want you just to answer these questions. Get your journals, because these are the things I want you to reflect on. What is your pivot calling you toward today? And what mindset needs to shift so purpose can take its root? And I want you to write down one area where you've been resisting the pivot and what God might be trying to grow in you through it. And so, Tiffany, let our listeners know where they can find you, reach out to you, follow you, support your book, S.A.L.T.Y, all the things.
Tiffany Miller Bevins on Facebook. S.A.L.T.Y is not up yet, but it will be, and it will be under S.A.L.T.Y LLC 33 on Instagram. But right now I am on Instagram as TK Smiles 33. I'm on IG. I don't do Snapchat and all other things, but those are the ways you can find me. And, look for my book coming out at the end of August. And I have just been asked to write two more, one for the coaches and one for student athletes. The person who is who helping me. I have a lot of people vetting my book. She has asked me to do that. And I think I'm going to say, okay, God, this is something else that I didn't think I could do, but I'm going to go ahead and get it done. So yes.
Yes.
That's where you can find
Awesome,
me.
awesome, 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 awesome. So again, like, subscribe, leave a review, follow the podcast at Say It Forward _podcast on Instagram. Follow us on our website at www.sayitforwardwithlou.com. And don't forget, truly write the vision. Habakkuk 2 says, write the vision and make it plain, and continue to say it forward one quarter at a time. And as always, stay tuned. Stay a while, and let's continue to say it forward together. And until next time, take care.